There have been many cheque presentations as the Earthquake Fund edges higher, but the timing of today's trifecta of donations was particularly appropriate. BHP Rod and Bar Products Division employees raised more than $7,500. As per a prior commitment, that figure was matched by both the executive of the Federated Ironworkers Association and BHP, which has already donated $250,000 to the appeal. Before the presentations, the total stood at $3,977,000.
And these cheques will take it over the $4 million mark. So that's, I believe that it is appropriate that it's in Newcastle, that it's the Federated Ironworkers Association and it's the BHP.
The Lord Mayor reaffirmed his commitment that the relief money would start flowing soon. Meanwhile, a City Council report has put the cost of repairing damage caused by the earthquake at $1.1 billion. Up to 10,000 structures were affected on December 28. The report says 486 are dangerous to the public and 675 are unstable. 85 buildings have already been demolished. Newcastle business people have detailed a list of tax concessions they want from state and federal governments to help recovery in the commercial sector. Chamber of Commerce Chairman David Lamarchant says tax relief is vital.
What we're looking for is investment, both large and small, within the earthquake-affected areas of Newcastle. We're not concentrating on large buildings, medium buildings or small buildings. It's an overall package that will benefit the progress of Newcastle.
The Chamber of Commerce, Newcastle City Council and the Hunter Economic Development Council say the federal government would make an inadvertent windfall from earthquake reconstruction through capital gains tax. The combined submission calls for a review of capital gains on earthquake property development. They want time extensions for asset replacement and greater leeway on the differential between market and replacement cost. Accountant Jeff McDermott said costs will be high.
Well, the example would be, a prime example, if you owned the building, bought it last year, cost you $500,000, replacement price today could very well be $800,000, $900,000. The building owner would be facing a $400,000 capital gain. He's got the same building, mind you, but he'd face a tax bill.
The 10-point submission covers every aspect of the reconstruction phase, from rental income concessions to more liberal definitions of plant and equipment components. The submission appeals for 3 months' grace on all government taxes. Another submission to the state government requests exemption from land tax and stamp duty for 5 years. Mr McDermott says these issues are already surfacing.
It's happening now. On the state government front, mere blocks of land have changed hands already, and the government is taking in stamp duty on those transactions. Now, should they? The answer, in my view, the answer is no. That transaction wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the earthquake. So why take the money just because it is?
The pumpkin pickers are in real trouble. 1 week before the start of the pre-season, 11 players turned out at training, not quite enough to fill 3 grades. And it wasn't so long ago that the Black and Whites were the toast of the town, the champions of the Newcastle Rugby League in 1983. In that year, former St George and hometown boy Robert Finch was at the helm, and this year his younger brother Michael has landed himself the coach's job. After finishing 3rd in the club championship last year, it's not a nice position to find yourself in before this season gets underway.
Very disheartening for myself and both the other lower grade coaches, and obviously for the club itself. I don't know which way we're going to turn. The we've got plenty of junior sides in the competition, like second division sides, but I don't think it's any use calling on them if they want to play with Maitland, they're going to be over there now. So I don't know which way we're going to turn.
Not wanting to point the finger at any one person, Finch would only say that Monday disputes regarding many senior players was a catalyst. Those players have since signed with other clubs or have taken up coaching positions elsewhere. Many past players are literally that, past, according to Finch, but he hopes there is a solution.
There's been a fair bit of work done after the end of last year's premiership to get the side off the ground. It's only been the last couple of weeks that it's come to notice of our committee and whoever that there is a problem, but I sorely hope that we do get something on the road.
Webster was questioned at Mayfield Police Station for several hours late yesterday afternoon. He has been charged with murder and assault intending to commit sexual assault. This morning, Webster appeared at a bail hearing before a Justice of the Peace in the Newcastle police cells. Police said the hearing was a closed session for security reasons. The 18-year-old Stockton man did not apply for bail and he will remain in custody till he appears in Newcastle Court on Monday morning. In November last year, the battered body of Fern Bay teenager Lee was found in sand dunes after a party at the former North Stockton Surf Club. A post-mortem revealed she had been sexually assaulted, then bludgeoned to death. An intense police investigation followed. Hundreds of people, many teenagers, were interviewed by more than 20 detectives working on the case. Had you been feeling confident all the way through, or were you getting frustrated with the inquiries?
Oh no, we were confident, it just took time, that's all.
With a lineup including Australia's premier bands Midnight Oil, Crowded House and Jimmy Barnes, it's no surprise tickets have been sold out. Today, organisers warned there will be no tickets at the door. With the huge crowds expected, security has been warned to strictly enforce an alcohol ban.
Well, we definitely do not want people to bring any alcohol at all. Not only will no alcohol be allowed through the gates, there is none on sale. This is an alcohol-free concert, and particularly no glass. People who are carrying bags will be searched, and glass is dangerous, so we don't want any dangerous items in here at all.
Work continues on the giant stage production with plans on schedule for the show. Volunteers are erecting hospitality tents for the performers. The bands are expected to arrive tomorrow morning. Police have urged people to catch buses with extra services put on for the concert. Sightseers should keep away. The show starts at midday with Spy vs Spy, finishing with Midnight Oil at around 7. Gates open at 10 o'clock. This giant wool store has more than 500 tonnes of medical equipment bound for Vietnam. Organised by Newcastle Overseas Aid, it's a gesture to help Vietnam recover after decades of war. Equipment like this heart monitoring machine has been superseded in Australia, but could be utilised in less developed countries. Donations have come not just from Newcastle, but throughout the country. Medical computers, laboratory equipment, trolleys, books, clothes and beds.
These donations are very much valuable to the Vietnamese people. Yes, because you know that many years have been going on in Vietnam. So our economy and the infrastructure is very backward.
The equipment will be loaded onto a Vietnamese ship tomorrow morning. Any volunteers can help at Wallshed 100 on Hannell Street, Wickham at 8 o'clock.
Gloucester BMW were to the forefront of the largest mixed regatta ever held at the Lake Macquarie Yacht Club, with 122 starters in the two-day point score championship. $12,000 was online in cash and trophies, and yachties responded to the weekend, coming from Gosford, Pittwater and Sydney to take part. Sailing was conducted in two divisions, spinnaker and non-spinnaker, and today's 18-mile course was a lot shorter than the 30 miles covered yesterday. Club officials were delighted with the turnout, although it was panic stations at the start, taking 3 goes to get the large fleet underway. Conditions were ideal for family and competitive racing, and the jovial atmosphere on the water is sure to spill over to the club tonight. Results were still being finalised a short time ago. Meanwhile, at the Cameron Park Raceway at West Wallshed, devotees of dirt track racing turned up in their thousands to pay their respects to a man that poured an enormous amount of his 60-odd years into the sport, Rod Allen. Rod passed away around 18 months ago, and today's meeting is the second held in his honour. On hand to be a part of the day was Rod's widow Gracie, who was lending a willing hand to son Ross, the commentator of the day's racing. The emotion was capped off with the appearance of Rod's grandson Jamie Plum on a 250cc bike, and the result didn't really seem to matter. To emphasise the esteem in which Rod Allen was held, Craig Connell travelled from Queensland to be part of the day, and Chris Watson flew back from Adelaide this morning, arriving at the track with only minutes to spare before he raced. And when he did, he blitzed his rivals to again show his brilliance on the dirt track circuit. In all, 123 riders competed in sidecars, solos, classics and juniors. For most of us, skiing around the bay once is hard enough. To stay upright for 80 kilometres would be a daunting task. But enthusiasts of speed skiing turned up in large numbers for the Stillwater Classic. 97 boats with their 194 skiers attempted the 3 circuits of the course, from the Belmont 16-foot Sailing Club to Poolbar Island and return. The race is run in several classes, from the all-powerful monster inboards and twin-engined outboards to social skiing classes, which, by the way, slide over the surface at alarming speeds. Of the day's racing, only one casualty, and that wasn't too serious. Young Jason Martin, skiing behind Fruit Swerve, came a cropper and was taken to the Belmont Hospital with a not-too-bad shoulder injury. With water conditions on the fair side, the quickest boats made an awesome sight as they headed off at the start, and 3 craft made the early running. Firebird got a beautiful start, and its observers seemed pretty happy about their progress. However, it was to be short-lived as Firebird retired with engine failure. It was then a battle between 2. The outboard network with Jamie Oliver and current world champion Ian Dipple up behind, and Top Gun with Jason Campbell and Danny Cropper as the skiers. These 2 combinations settled down to a real dogfight, and after pounding the skiers and their boats, it was the brilliant Oliver Dipple pairing behind Network that took the race in a time of 36 minutes 12.75 seconds. A further 48 seconds behind was Top Gun, and then followed My 3 Sons towing Kevin Boylan and Matthew Campbell.
The violence continued for hours after the soccer match, in which 63 people, including 48 police, were injured. 2 soldiers were also hurt when their Land Rover was blown up, and 4 buses hijacked and set on fire by gangs of fans as they made their way home. Violence flared during the match when police attempted to control warring fans at the city's local ground by firing plastic bullets into the grandstands. And the rioting heightened when Celtic lost the game 2-1.
Amanda Hector was back in the pool today, putting in 16 kilometres, as she does 11 times a week with the Hunter Swimming Club. Amanda has been training for 3 years, but has lately made dramatic improvements in her form.
What you've got to do is get those elbows up more, right?
In the last 5 weeks, Amanda has knocked 6 seconds off her 200-metre butterfly time. That was enough to leave her coach and the other swimmers speechless at the Open State Swimming Carnival. Amanda won the 200-metre open butterfly in just over 2 minutes 17.
This young lass would have made the Commonwealth final at the Commonwealth Games in New Zealand.
Amanda says she enjoys swimming and her big win is only the start.
How far do you see yourself going with your swimming?
Fairly long way.
What are your goals?
Go to Olympic Games.
Another of Eric Arnold's young chargers also proved age is no barrier on the weekend. 12-year-old Philippa Reeves won the Open 800 metres freestyle. Both Philippa and Amanda have years of hard work ahead of them if they're to join Australia's swimming legends, but Coach Arnold says there's no reason they should tire of it.
I don't believe that you can start too young. So a lot of people say they start too young, but if they start later on, how can they compete?
As the truckies dispute escalates, the local chapter of the Chamber of Manufacturers warns of impending problems in the manufacturing industry. Jeff Latham says companies that rely on Victorian and South Australian markets will be worst hit if the border pickets continue.
They're looking at contingency plans. How do we get through the strike? Now, most of them have raw materials that will last for about 10 days. And in terms of distributing their products, they can only last for about 5 days.
Mr Latham says local industry will be forced to slow down production, encourage staff to take leave and look at alternative warehousing arrangements if the dispute continues. He says most companies dismiss rail freight as an alternative transport option, believing it better suited to bulk material rather than manufactured goods. While the dispute has not yet led locally to stand-downs of permanent staff, he says casual staff have already been affected.
Casual stand-downs are taking place now. They're occurring in companies right across Newcastle, right through the Hunter Valley. Companies are very seriously considering it, and they are in fact taking place.
During the quake, the roof of the club, which stood proudly on the corner of King and Perkins Streets for more than 100 years, collapsed. The buckled walls of the club threatened to fall across King Street, the main route for ambulances to the Royal Newcastle Hospital. To avoid any possibility of the road being blocked, police ordered the walls of the club to be pushed in. Club management today put the horrifying images of the quake behind them in announcing the RSL will be housed in the old taxation office fronting Scott Street for 3 years, while the King Street site is rebuilt. Secretary-Manager Phil Winnie says little change will have to be made to the old beefsteak restaurant.
It's only minor work inside. We've got to build areas to comply with the licensing laws where we can have poker machines. We've got to also secure some areas off where we can store our beer supplies, bulk beer supplies, and we've got to be able to run good draft beer to a bar inside. That's the important things. As soon as we get all those done, we're virtually up and running.
The quake has also helped the revitalisation of the Hunter Mall chambers, with many new tenants moving in after suffering quake damage to their buildings.
As you can see, the ANZ Bank's moving in on the ground floor, with us moving also in on the ground floor. There's also say that the government department is going to be moving in on the first floor, so really for the building, for the old Hunter Mall chambers, is going to be a godsend, and for the Newcastle RSL, we've got a ready-made clientele here.
The Newcastle committee admits attendances are dropping at country shows, and today's small crowd appeared to confirm that.
It's a bit quiet, but it usually gets picked up about Thursday night, and Friday and Saturday is real busy.
First aid crowds are traditionally down, and the committee is hoping numbers will swell to cover their $500,000 outlay in expenses. Amongst the spectators were the young and the young at heart. Groups from the Stewart School and Waratah Orthopaedic School found the animal nursery to their liking. There was a special introduction for David Fayer to a rather nervous rabbit. One of the themes behind the show is bringing the country to the city. You can even learn how to milk a cow. Tokal Agricultural College held seminars on tree planting, and the Department of Ag gave tips on planting hydroponic style. In the main arena, Jeff Wan's 12 Devon bullocks displayed their muscles. The bullocks still work in the bush near Clarencetown, pulling up to 6 tonnes of timber in one load. Also in centre ring, the bloodstock horses, including the Galloway and Appaloosa breeds. Tonight, a trick riding show is planned, also a display from the Holden Precision Driving team. Each night of the show will finish with fireworks.
The local community centre appears to have borne the brunt of the graffiti attack, with obscenities sprayed around the walls up to 2 metres high. The rail and road bridge were painted with diagrams of bongs and what's believed to be signatures by the artists themselves. The 19-year-old was caught after he was spotted and reported to police. Today, Toronto police took him back to the scene, trying to recreate the graffiti spree. It's expected the youth will be charged later tonight with the 10 counts of malicious damage, and police are confident of further arrests.
Detectives say thieves used a truck to ram a rear door at the S&W Miller's store on Mayfield Road at about 4:30 a.m. Inside, they collected televisions and VCRs in an operation lasting just a few minutes. Police have some important clues, including suspicious tyre tracks and a machete apparently left at the scene as the culprits fled. Neighbours reported seeing a vehicle similar to a Toyota Hiace heading away from Mayfield along Valencia Street. A full stock take is continuing.
The new series will comprise of 5 heats, each worth $5,000, with heat winners progressing straight to the $20,000 final. The remainder of the field will be made up of the heat's place-getters. Only horses trained on country or provincial tracks will be eligible, giving a much-needed financial boost to syndicates, which normally only race for small purses or without much chance of city exposure. Newcastle Jockey Club Secretary Terry Smith says the series was developed locally.
Well, John Sinclair, the Secretary of Corindai, came down and had a bit of a talk to me about it. It was his baby to start with, and he conned us into paying the $20,000 final prize money, so we said yes.
The first of the 5 races will start at Muswellbrook on the 9th of next month, before moving on to Scones, Cessnock, Corindai, Denman, and then on to Broadmeadow for the final in early April.